Good morning, everybody, and most importantly, thank you all for showing up today. We really appreciate it. I wanted to spend a few minutes here at Surf Cup Sports Park to talk a little bit about the future for Soccer City and bringing MLS to the city of San Diego. Before we begin, I just thought a couple of seconds worth of retrospective would be valuable. So for 3 straight Mondays in June, hundreds and hundreds of fans took time out of their day to come to the city council to express their love of the sport, their support for this idea, and their commitment to doing something that is radically different with the site at Qualcomm. 2/3 of the people in the city of San Diego support this idea. Just think about that. 2/3 of the people in the city of San Diego support this idea. How often can you say that about this city? And we saw an example of that for 3 straight Mondays at City Hall. Unfortunately, and particularly in light of the most recent actions by the City Council to try and declare the property surplus, there really is no path we can see to a special election that would allow us to have a vote in advance of November of 2018. And as we have consistently and repeatedly said, the league to date has declared that their requirements for a decision be by December, we have a fully baked and ready to go stadium plan. So were it on its face taken as a straight conclusion that you could not have a vote before November of 2018, there would be no path that we could see to Major League Soccer in the city of San Diego. So what we're standing here today to do is to say that the fans that stand behind me, the legion of fans that have supported us, we've heard their level of enthusiasm. We've heard their support for this idea. We've heard the consistent and repeated requests for figuring out a way to deliver soccer to the city. And we think San Diego is worth the wait. So we're going to call on Major League Soccer and work collectively with the fans that are behind us, with all of the social media effort that we have managed to build and the enthusiasm among the fans. We're going to call on Major League Soccer to wait for San Diego. Wait for SD. That's all we're asking. We're asking that with at least one of the expansion franchises, you wait long enough to allow the city of San Diego to show their true level of support for this idea, because the city council, with a couple of notable exceptions, Scott Sherman in particular, has declared repeatedly their desire to take away the voters' right to choose with what to do with their property. What we know is that the voters will have a choice on November of 2018. The folks behind me, the 68% of voters in the city of San Diego who support this idea, will have a choice on November of 2018 to support Soccer City. And there is a reason that 68% of the people love this idea. It's because it doesn't cost taxpayers a dime. It's because it delivers 60 acres of river park that is consistent with the goals and objectives of the River Park Foundation. It's because it helps address our housing shortage, which we keep hearing about over and over and over again at the City Council. Here is a very practical, real-term conclusion and solution to a part of our housing shortage. And it does all of that in a way that delivers wonderful professional soccer to the city of San Diego. And for those of you who think soccer is just a microcosm of sporting activity in San Diego, look behind me. It's Monday, middle of the morning. There are 8 teams behind me practicing. The youth participation for this sport is growing rapidly. The sport in San Diego is incredibly popular. People here love soccer. We have 9,000 people that cross the border for every Xolos game to see the Xolos play in Tijuana and then cross it back. We have 53,000 fans show up at the Qualcomm site to watch the Gold Cup, which is interesting, but it's the Gold Cup. It's not a home team, it's not a local rivalry. We have as many people watching Major League Soccer in the city of San Diego as watch it in the top 5 markets. And we don't have a team yet. This is going to be a great market for the city, for the Major League Soccer. And that's why we think there is a reason for them to wait for San Diego. There's a group of children standing on my left. And I think a little bit of what we're talking about is, what is the future that we're building for them? Are we leaving behind a legacy that creates a sport that is popular with families, creates a great family-friendly atmosphere, that allows them to find a sport that's safe, that builds all the leadership skills that you've heard Shannon and Landon repeatedly talk about, and does it in a way that actually takes a civic liability and convert it into a real asset and create a great home for them to have a team to support and players for role models. That's what we're debating here. We're debating, should we do something with the $12 million a year liability at Qualcomm in a time frame that is relevant for these young gentlemen on my left or not? That's the subject of the debate. So You'll see us launch a Wait for SD campaign. We're announcing it today. On Sunday, we will have at the U.S. Women's National Team game versus Brazil a huge fan appreciation day that also will double as the launch for Wait for San Diego. You'll see us post on Facebook and start our social media activities around the Wait for San Diego campaign idea. We would encourage all of the fans out there to let your voices be heard so that the league knows that there is a city in America, one of the 12 that is competing for a franchise right now, that desperately wants the chance and deserves the chance to have an opportunity to secure an expansion franchise. And yes, our vote will happen in November of 18. And no, that is not perfect. And no, we cannot guarantee that the league will wait. But we think this market is worth it. And we've heard the fans, and we've heard your level of enthusiasm. And for that, we say we're humbled and thank you. Please continue to support us as we go forward. We will need active engagement on social media. We'll need active engagement with the league to make it clear that San Diego is truly a wonderful market for soccer. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Have you heard any whispers from the MLS that they're in line with the
The league's message to us has been extremely consistent, which is that we really, to be competitive, we really need to have our stadium solution by the end of this year. But we also don't believe the odds are zero that a Wait for SD campaign will work. So there is a reason for us to be pushing forward here. Is it a high probability answer? No, it's not a high probability answer. But this city is worth waiting for, and that's what we're trying to convince the league of. And the more effort that we put forward, the clearer it is for the league that delaying their decision on at least one of the expansion franchises until after November of next year will make sense. Yeah.
Compared with the other 11 cities, a lot of which are asking for public money, how do you feel, not against the MLS timeline, but compared to the other 11 cities on San Diego's bid, even with having to wait for 2018?
So I think the fact that we're not asking for a penny of taxpayer dollars is massively helpful to our effort. It's pretty differentiating relative to the field of other cities that are competing. And I actually suspected it would result in us having a real vote in November 2017 when people were actually given the right to choose for real. I was wrong about that. I don't think I'm wrong, though, in concluding that it is very differentiating and net helpful to us that we're not looking for any public subsidy.
What do you think about the rest of the field that's competing? How are there, with those 11 other cities that are interested in the franchise, if 4 viable options pop up before San Diego goes, how does that affect your position?
It'll hurt it, Eric. So, the question, in case not everybody heard it, was what happens if there are 4 other good options in advance of San Diego? Right now, there are lots of good options. But what I've also learned, Eric, is that the pecking order constantly changes. If you looked at San Diego 3 months ago before the city council's intervention here with respect to the timing, you'd have said San Diego was probably number 1 on the list to secure a franchise. And there are people here that track that and publish it, so you can find them on your side to provide evidence for that. The pecking order constantly shifts, and I think what we're trying to convince the league of is that this is a near-term delay that creates great long-term benefit. And thinking about the long-term for the league is something they've done very well historically, and we hope that they will continue to do that here. If there are 4 other great options between now and November of 2018, our probability will go down, sadly.
What about the item that the city council is going to consider tomorrow?
The surplus property action, right. Very simply, I think the city attorney has just ruled in their memo that would effectively infringe upon the voters' constitutional rights to citizens' initiative because it would strip out from underneath. It would strip out from underneath the initiative, the land, right, thereby fundamentally altering the premise of the initiative. What is very telling about it is that effort would even be tried. Very clearly, the people behind me, the 100,000 plus San Diegans who signed the petition, said we have a real use for that land. And the fact that 4 Democrats in the city council have asked for a consideration as to whether or not this land should now be deemed surplus rapidly tells you that about the same level of care with respect to the voters' rights that went into the decision about the special election is being deemed for the initiative and the process that underlies it.
How critical for your project at this point in time to go forward? How will it go forward if this MLS doesn't step up and be a part of your program?
We have from the beginning, committed that we will have a Major League Soccer franchise or we won't do anything at the site. And so if there is no Major League Soccer team, we will never have a soccer city. And I think that commitment remains strong for us. That's part of why we need real fan engagement right now. And if you're a supporter, please engage with us on social media. Please engage with the league on social media to tell them the depth of the support here, because we need Major League Soccer to wait. And I have hope that if we show the level of support in the market, we will ultimately prevail. But the probability is nowhere near as high as if the city council had just done what the voters clearly called for and asked for a vote when it mattered. Yeah.
Is there any significance to this venue being the location for today's announcement?
There is, DK. Thank you for asking. So we're standing at Surf Cup Sports Park, and as a good example for the youth engagement in soccer, this weekend the Surf organization will host Surf Cup. It is the most prestigious tournament in the country. There'll be 800 teams that come here. There'll be over 3,000 participants in the tournament. You know, dozens, if not hundreds, of college scouts. Teams will come from 6 different countries. They'll come from 26 states. It's an example of exactly why San Diego is such a logical soccer market. We have the most prestigious soccer tournament in the country in our home market every year. And we don't have a Major League Soccer franchise to organize an academy structure around to help support that. I mean, just imagine, fast forward 5 years when there's a Major League Soccer franchise here supporting great growth of talent and providing resources and capabilities, what this could look like. I think the opportunity there for youth soccer and the development of youth soccer teams is remarkable. Diane?
If you could have a magic wand and start this process over again, is there anything you would have done differently?
There are lots of things I would have done differently. I would have hired a different spokesman to start with. I think we thought when we came forward we were presenting something that people would look at with respect to the true facts and do the work to dig underneath and understand the nuances of the initiative. What we've learned the hard way is that frequently facts and the fiction that creates the narrative diverge. And we have not been 20-year donors to members of different political organizations. Those two things, I think, would have been helpful pieces of knowledge for us up front. I still believe we have a truly amazing proposal sitting in front of the people in the city of San Diego. You'll note there's been nothing yet that actually speaks to where the university plays football, if not for the Qualcomm location. We're proposing something that creates $2.8 billion of economic impact and $26,000 jobs, permanent jobs. And it does it all from a standing start of a parking lot that's an environmental liability at $12 million cost a year. That's pretty remarkable, I think. And it does it on the back of this great sport and provides a real civic asset at the same time. And we thought that would get evaluated on its merits rather than the sort of political overlay that looks like it has locked up a lot of this decision-making process. It's what resulted in the surplus designation effort that's ongoing at City Council right now. Great. Okay. Sorry, one more.
One more question. The opposition included 2 developers that are very involved in Mission Valley. Do you think there's any chance of getting them behind you?
I don't really know how to answer that question because it's not at our discretion. We approached them very early in this process about doing exactly that, and were rebuffed in that discussion. I don't see anything that has materially changed the facts from their perspective. What I do hope that we're proving today is that the depth of fan support and the depth of the public's support for this proposal are so strong, we believe it's worthwhile to push forward. And I think if there's one thing that is likely to change the tenor with which they approach this, it's them seeing how many people believe in this and thinking about what the November 18 ballot on the back of the World Cup will really look like. And the level of enthusiasm that will exist in this market for soccer at that point in time after a once in 4-year event, and how much that might influence the people that show up, the level of engagement and the voter support. And it looks really good right now to start with, and that's before the World Cup. So thank you all very much. We appreciate the time, and thank you very much for your time.